and welcome to Dallas Anime Meetup's Pokemon Legends Arceus review and just some further discussion on the future of the series. I'm Nick, and I'm here with...
Hi, it's Jamar. How you guys doing?
Yeah, and so we're kind of just going to have a kind of free-flow discussion on our thoughts. We both went through the game here these past couple weeks, and also with the timing of the new games being announced Pokemon Day last week, I'm kind of just going to see, what we were really thinking about it and where this future of the series may be headed. But yeah, so what did you think kind of the game summary and the plot of this recent open world, I suppose, the first foray in a Pokemon series into an open world game?
For me, I think it was actually a really good first attempt for Game Freak to kind of leave the cut and paste Pokemon mechanics they had for over 20 years. It had like a Breath of the Wild effect. There weren't random encounters. You was able to kind of walk up, catch Pokemon. You didn't have all those traditional things that you associate with Pokemon, like going into towns, going to the Pokemon Center. Everything was done from one main location, and you had little camps to do your Pokemon surveillance.
Yeah. So a little bit more on the plot. It seems like your character is someone from like a modern day time or something based on their T-shirt at the start. But then they get isekai'd into the Sinnoh version of the past, the games that the Diamond and Pearl games take place in. And Arceus and the professor kind of want you to create the first ever Pokédex, or essentially this version that's like no one's ever really thought of doing this before. Almost it seems like everyone is like super afraid of Pokemon and like, oh, these are like terrifying creatures. And Bill last Thursday, got his leg bitten off by a Shinx or whatever. It's like it's really interesting how like violent and stuff they're kind of making these guys out to be, and they are, because like that's also a series first then too, right? Is like they will. Everything is pretty much hostile towards you. Yeah.
And I do like that change, because it's like you said, Pokemon wouldn't need to be feared. Like, they raided the village, people lost loved ones to Pokemon as you go into the story and learn about characters. Like, Pokemon weren't your friends in the beginning. They were almost like rivals trying to survive.
Yeah, it's really interesting too as you come across. So there's like a lot of ancestors of characters that you know and love. Maybe you love them from the main series games, and kind of in this past version, they almost like revere the Pokemon. There's like these lords of these different regions, and it's a very like spiritual sort of worship, because Pokeballs also as well have only just recently been invented, and so anyone that's able to like tame a Pokemon like without the use of the Pokeball with technology and stuff is like seen as like a really respectable person in the this time period. And yeah, that's one of the main goals of the game, of the plot. You don't have to go like from plot point to plot point, as Jamar is saying too. You can kind of just go around. There's 5 different regions. You can go around like pretty much just catching whatever you want. If you see something off in the distance that looks like a cool cave or something, you can pretty much just go over there. And later on in the game, you get these different ride Pokemon to that
traverse the terrain, from going into the ocean, climbing mountains, and even flight.
I mean, it's when you do get the Braviary kind of at the end, it's maybe one of the only ones you end up using. Like Ursaluna is, it's useful for this one side quest, collectibles of this lore. But other than that, I don't know if you really use that one all that much. But yeah, they're still really cool. Basque Legion, I believe, and that actually ties into like another huge selling point. And some of them they weren't really even advertised at first, but there's a lot of new forms and new evolutions of Pokemon that we've seen. So it turns out a lot of them are Gen 2 and Gen 5 Pokemon that you really haven't got like that much love from Game Freak before in the past. I feel like people have been asking for a Stantler evolution for years now. It's kind of just a little bit weaker than the other guys. But then also we have Quillfish, and then Pokemon from Gen 5. So Basculin then now evolves into Basculegion for in this region, and Zorua and Zoroark even have new forms, which are really cool.
Even Scyther gets a new form as
yeah,
well.
Yeah, that's the first one too that you encounter, and each of you definitely won't be able to miss them over the course of the story, because they're pretty much the lords of each of the region that you have to work to kind of quell or calm down. And they're most of the new forms or the new evolutions, which it's cool, but it's also sad because it hasn't necessarily been officially announced at this point how Pokemon Home integration will work, if we will be able to transfer these guys over to the new Scarlet and Violet games, which we'll touch on a little bit later, or if you'll be able to bring them to the Diamond and Pearl remakes. It's just not really all that clear if maybe these guys will unfortunately be stuck in Legends Arceus forever. I mean, hopefully not, but
I don't know. There is a part of the story that has a Pokemon in the Aloha region that shows up. So there may be a chance we'll see them in later games.
Yeah, the Sword and Shield kind of being infamous for the Dexit cut, and being the first game, the first series to not include every Pokemon being available to play in battle with. And yeah, that's pretty much the nature of the series. It's looking like going forward. They've announced, I mean, things can always change in the future, but they said it's unlikely that we'll be getting a Pokemon game where you can actually catch every single one and use all of them in a single game and going forward. But
Nick,
to be fair, yeah.
Do you want all those Pokemon? Because
I mean, no.
Yeah, I was pretty satisfied with the Pokédex in this one.
Yeah.
Had many of them, they had to make models and actual models that when they attacked, they interacted with the other Pokemon and yourself. That takes a lot of work, especially from Game Freak, that was like Pokemon Luxray used Bite Attack and it just stands there and it just shows teeth.
Yeah.
To where we're at. It's a big jump. And when you look at I guess we'll just say another AAA studio that makes an open world game at the same price, it's more interactive, but it doesn't have like the back end history of Pokemon, so we always kind of gave it a pass. But yeah, where we're at now with the character models, and they're just going to keep adding them in as series go on. So
yeah, I feel like maybe similar series like Dragon Quest, Monster Hunter, maybe they can almost get away with it because they have like a lot of different enemies, but they're just recolors, or they're just reskins of existing ones. Whereas Pokemon has like us approaching over 900 unique models, and then they have the shiny coloration, and then some of them have different forms, and of course you have to have their signature moves and abilities for them to function in battle, perhaps. But yeah, it makes sense to have more curated experience going forward. I think it would actually be a more, when Sword and Shield first came out too, it really shook up the competitive scene, because all these people, use Smogon and other official forms and stuff. They're like, wait, how am I supposed to have a team if I can't have Landorus and Tapu Fini and like all these really strong Pokemon, from the past? And it's like, maybe try out some new strategies, maybe. That's right. Yeah, use the new guys. So I think it's good, and it kind of forces you to be more innovative instead of just using Staraptor on your team and beating up everyone. But so yeah, it's good, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Staraptor always stays on the team if it's in the game.
Staraptor's pretty great. But yeah, so what did you think? I guess because it did also include some shakeups to the core mechanics and battling and stuff.
Yeah, it's just to kind of go brief on the mechanics. How can I say that? So they had something called agile style and strong style, and depending on which one you pick, agile style will sometimes give you a weaker attack, weaker effects, but it could guarantee you another additional attack. Whereas strong style was more strength, more effects, so poison will hit for more damage. Sleep paralysis will have a higher activation rate.
I think increase the accuracy of those effects and stuff.
But at the same time, if you use that, you lose. If you don't KO, you could end up getting KO because the opponent will get 2 turns. It was interesting to say the least, because a lot of times, depending on your Pokemon, like I had like Staraptor, I had my Haunter, and I would hit with an agile style move and then clean house with the strong style. And I didn't think I ran into any issues, only towards like the later end games where you don't have time to switch out Pokemon. So what's the
I think that's worth going into. So the switching. So in the original games, there were 2 sort of battle styles you could change in the menu. That was like set style or switch, where it would give you a little notification, like Cynthia is about to send out, Lucario. Would you like to switch your Pokemon? And to me, that's always kind of been, once I realized that was what that option was, that's kind of like an easy mode. Like, it gives you a chance to switch out your Pokemon, but in actual battles against other people and not AI, you don't really, it doesn't tell you what they're switching out. It doesn't give you a free turn. But this game definitely kind of takes that to the extreme, where it's almost a little bit unfair in that almost every time the opponent that you're facing switches in a new guy, they have a move priority, a move initiative, which you can see in, there's this other little menu that you can pop up that kind of shows what the turn order is, and if someone's going to get like 2 or even 3 moves in a row because of like a combination of using quick attack and agile moves and stuff. They can really, there's some kind of busted actually Cresselia's skill too. It like heals it and then it obscures it, so it makes the moves more difficult to hit. You can actually, this may be a good segue into kind of some spoiler territory here, but you can actually solo the final boss battle with just Cresselia. Now, you have to teach it Ice Beam and some other things too, but with just at level 70, using that Lunar Blessing move, and like only Cresselia on your team, which is really mind-blowing after, because you probably got your butt handed to you the first time when you go and face that final guy. But yeah, what did you think of that? So the final boss, after you kind of you defeat Dialga and Palkia, kind of calm them down, give them a Snickers, and they're fine. And then you go around the region collecting all the other elemental plates. And then, what kind of happened after that?
But for a long-time Pokemon fans, it's a good treat. And also, it could be seen as, if you had trouble with one of the older games from this generation, you'll realize you're in for a real treat against the final boss. But no, it was actually a legitimate good fight. Like, I didn't have a lot of legendaries on my team. Most Pokemon games, I usually stick with the first 10 Pokemon I catch, and I'll run that team all the way into before actual competitive play. And it was basically, I knock out a Pokemon, they knock out a Pokemon, all the way to we had like 1. So one thing we didn't really touch is kind of like the attack balance in this game, because there's Pokemon that could be 20, 30 levels below what you're fighting, and they can still one-shot you if played correctly.
Yeah. I think I have a clip then too. One of the little cutscenes I want to have was there was a Parasect. It's been a bit of a meme that the Paras are kind of the most violent, aggressive creatures in the game.
Alpha, bro.
And it did. Oh my gosh! So it did a poison, sludge bomb that poisoned me as agile. It was an alpha, and then it followed that up with Venoshock as a strong move. And Venoshock, if you know, doubles in power if you are poisoned. And so that was probably a 500 power move, and it took out, it was like level 90 something, my Decidueye. And with this level 40, I don't remember exactly what it was, but I was like, okay, dang, yeah, that's probably the best one of the best combos
like the best
you can do.
Off, like,
okay,
poison moves in a long time. Because
yeah, what do you think too? They kind of rebalanced some other types and stuff, like ice type, and they changed like the freeze status to frostbite, and,
and
some other stuff
drowsy.
Like that. Yeah. I feel like it's kind of more fair, because if you put someone to sleep, it's kind of just like a chance that they won't be able to move. Now instead of like a guarantee.
Same thing with them being frozen.
Yeah, what do you think?
It's usually like game over if Pokemon get frozen, because the only way you can honestly get it out of it if you use like a defrost or ice seal on it. No, I like those changes because it actually made it more fair. And also certain moves you get what is called fixated with, where they'll become more stronger, but you take more damage. So like moves like Rollout, which used to be punished in like, I want to say Gen 3 with a milk tank.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Whitney,
it's no longer like a press the button and you win. It's you gotta actually have strategy, because if somebody hits you with a super effective while you're fixated, you could literally get one shotted pretty simple.
I feel like too, just this game, it has a lot of like ties and callbacks to previous lore and things that like almost you would think that they would have forgotten about. The final battle arena against Arceus and all is actually, it has this shape, the symbol from this not DLC. It was an event in Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver that was like only through this. You had to go to GameStop, and it had this whole crazy cutscene. One of the most bizarre things in all of Pokemon that I can recall, where it had like real life images and things of like Japan like flashing by. If you remember that. And it was that same, the circles and triangles sort of shape is what that pattern is in the sky, in the Aurora Borealis of the final battle scene, which is just super cool callback. In addition to one of the hidden old verses that you get with the Ursa Luna, actually makes a reference to Sinjo, which is the area where Cynthia takes you to, where that event takes place, which is kind of just a one-off little mini room, pretty much. But apparently the way that this new lore references it, it could be its whole own region, which is really weird, because it's kind of a combination of Sinnoh and Johto, but this is like before Sinnoh is called Sinnoh. It's still called Hisui, so why is it called the Sinjo ruin? It's this whole other can of worms and timeline, but it's at least really interesting that they are still referencing it, and they're not just kind of like, oh, let's just only have new ideas, let's just push forward with new Pokemon, but they're making callbacks, they're making deliberate, references to the lore and events of the past games for older fans. I kind of feel like.
Yeah, no,
I
totally
that's really cool.
agree, because Pokemon has over 20 years of lore now. Like, there's so much they could do from Generation 1 to now where we could have another Legends game in all the other regions if they decide to. Because the story behind Pokemon is always amazing because there's stuff they call back in like the animations, the movies that they never fully got to flesh out in the game. So I am always open for that. I'm partial to the Johto region, but I will always take more Pokemon lore when I can.
Yeah, definitely. One thing too that actually reminded me of something was, so there's one point, I think this is maybe the last spoiler section. I don't know if it's all that organized or not, but you kind of get like kicked out of the town during one section of the end game, and it really had the same sort of, even more so, the vibes from one of the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games, which was like they kind of blame you. They think like all these crazy things. Well, the sky changes color, which is a bit concerning. But they kind of think like, oh, actually, it's this mysterious, isekai guy who just showed up randomly. I think it makes sense. He's been the one causing all of this. Like, it's like, well, it doesn't really make sense, but. Yeah, and that like really, you're like, wait, these are all my friends, and like you're walking through like the town, and like everyone's looking at you, and like some people are like, oh no, I couldn't have been you, but then other people, like that shopkeeper guy, is like, I knew it, this was the guy. He definitely, I've been suspicious of him the whole time. No,
but, I think we're getting close to wrapping up on basically kind of our overview with Pokemon. There is one thing I want to touch that we didn't talk about, is the distortion portals that opens up during gameplay.
Oh yeah, what did you think of those time space distortions and stuff?
I found them fun and scary at the same time, because you could get really good Pokemon from different parts of the series, but at the same time, it's so you can kind of faint in Pokemon in this game. So when you go into those distortion regions, you get attacked by a gang of Pokemon, and sometimes it could be a super rare Pokemon, sometimes it just could be a stronger version of what could be in the game. And it was one of those things as you get attacked by multiple Pokemon, you're trying to catch a Pokemon and you're trying not to faint.
Yeah, you gotta stay alive too yourself.
So what's your take on it?
I think, yeah, it was really crazy the first time. So when I encountered one of those, I tried to avoid spoilers for this game going into it pretty blind. And I didn't know what was going on when that opened up. So I kind of just like, okay, there's some weird sky and stuff. And then I think I beat all the Pokemon that were there normally. You have to stay in that region, I think, for like 3 or 5 minutes before the distortion fully forms into where it starts spawning all the crazy guys and even other rare Pokemon, like some starters sometimes you can get this way. But I kind of just left the first time because I was like, oh, well, I got everything. I beat all the wild Pokemon that were here. I didn't realize it until the second time. I stayed around a little bit longer. I was like, there must have been something up with this. And then it was like, oh yeah, here's a Scizor spawns on your head. And you're like, oh, okay, there's something more to this. Yeah, you got to try to catch just the EV, but it'll like initiate a 3v1. Yeah, it's pretty challenging. I think too that kind of leads into, so there was a short little DLC called Daybreak, I guess, that came out then too after Pokemon Day announcements, and so that introduced mass outbreaks. Although in the monkey's paw of it introducing that, it actually patched or removed this other kind of the more common shiny hunting method was you would get a normal mass outbreak of a guy and you would save at the village, and then if you went there and you were trying to get it as a shiny and you didn't get it, you could just reset your game and go back to the village and try again. But with the patch that it actually doesn't work anymore. So instead you had these mass outbreaks, which I got a couple of short little clips kind of explaining how that is. You talk to Mai, and she feeds her Munchlax 5 berries, and it kind of shows you all the guys that are in this region. But you're on a timer. I think it's like 10 or 20 minutes that you have outbreaks all over one of the maps. And for some of them, they're more special in that after you defeat them, a group can come to replace them that can actually end up being an outbreak of alpha Pokemon, which can be really, really challenging if you're trying to catch all of them. But you also have a slightly higher chance of getting them as shiny too. So if you're a real madman and you're trying to get alpha shiny max level starters and stuff, this is a way that you can do that. But yeah, there was also some new challenging fights against the legends. You can battle Arceus and in your dream, and Ingo is here. And yeah, it's not that much. I'm hoping maybe there will be more DLC for it too. Maybe some more stories. I haven't really mentioned it, but yeah, Ingo is actually from the Pokemon Black and White games, who was transported here with, unfortunately, without his brother. And people are wondering, we want to send him back. Can we, is there a way to send him back to his normal time period? And I don't know. What are your thoughts?
We don't know if this game is technically canon, and we don't know what's going to happen after the whole distortion rigmarole. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Like, it would be cool for him to go back, but depending on what happens in the next game that was announced, we'll see what happens. But I would.
Do we maybe want to talk about like some future possibilities, or what were you saying?
Get into that. But I think they'll probably do a couple of updates just because we're probably going to have some time before the next game. So in Nintendo fashion, they always do like small little kind of system updates to the game and add a little bit more to the story. Nothing major, but it's usually one or two things.
Yeah. So what would you say is kind of wrapping up Legends Arceus? Who would you recommend
Honestly,
this game for?
Anybody that likes Pokemon, new and old. I had an actual good time just playing it, just walking around, chucking balls at Starlies and Luxrays, and it made me feel like a kid again. Because I think if I was to play a Pokemon game in the current generation as a child, a teenager, 10-year-old, I think this is how I would imagine Pokemon would be in the future. While it wasn't perfect, there's like things like they could have had voice acting, they could have had a couple of more towns. I think as a first attempt, it was a really strong one, and I don't think anybody that are fans of the series would be disappointed. I think it's a solid game. How about yourself?
Yeah, I think too it was really smart of them to kind of release it just a couple of months after the more by the books traditional Diamond and Pearl remakes that themselves didn't really have any of the new mechanics. They didn't have Dynamaxing in there, and they didn't really need it. I feel like this is a good yin and yang sort of strategy that they have, that this is the more experimental, you're changing up the battle style, you're changing up the whole way that you catch Pokemon, and the Let's Go games, Pikachu and Eevee back a couple years ago also sort of did that, but I don't think that's really anywhere near the same caliber as shaking up the formula that this did. And I think even if they do go back to a more traditional game style in the future, that there's still a lot that they can take away from this, that a lot of good things that there's been a lot of really good feedback for. But yeah, I think that we're getting closer to the end. What do you think about the future games? Do you think we may see more Legends games like this?
I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get a new Legend game every couple of years, because I think the format would work as kind of like half step between like the next game. So they have the formula out now. It's just how they want to flesh it out.
Mm-hmm. And there's definitely, some legendaries that they haven't fully explained all the lore. There's like the original QREM, maybe more stuff on Zygarde, and then Eternatus that was like revealed in Sword and Shield and stuff. There's a whole like, oh, back in the day there was actually more exciting plot in Pokemon Sword and Shield, but now you're kind of just going to play the boring stuff. But maybe that was a whole big brain 4D chess move for them to announce a Legends Eternatus in 5 years, but who knows. But what we do know, what is more concrete, is so Pokemon Scarlet and Violet were revealed at the end of the Pokemon Day, which was otherwise a pretty boring announcement. It's like, well, here's the new guy Pokemon coming to the mobile cafe puzzle mix game. Here's the new Pokemon coming to Pokemon Unite. And we're putting some more guys into Pokemon Go. But then at the end, it was like, oh,
also this is also what you played around for.
Yeah, those of you that haven't fallen asleep yet, Pokemon Sleep. No, but yeah, it was actually pretty interesting. So it looks like the new games will be taking place in Spain-inspired region, or perhaps all of the Iberian Peninsula, and they're saying it's going to be open world, or at least it said that in the trailer description. But yeah, what do you think about that?
We have very few details on it. It's going to be, are they going to take what they learned from Legends and kind of critique and clean out what kind of like the shortcomings from that game? And also Sword and Shield, because remember they had that experimental wild zone where they had Pokemon and like the frame rates was low and it wasn't as interactive. I guess one of my main things is it gonna hit for the Switch, or is this gonna be for, we'll call it quote unquote the Switch Pro? Because I think that will dictate a lot, because for all the like random generations, how many Pokemon you can actually have on screen, how they interact in the city, that was a lot of undertaking for the past two games, so I'm curious how that's going to play into effect. But
yeah, I'm pretty sure you may have heard too the recent the Nvidia leak that there may be a Switch 2 or something coming at some point, but nothing official has been announced. Yeah, that would be really cool if you could see a Pikachu 10 meters away that wasn't looking like it was a slideshow presentation in its movements. Yeah, that would be great. I noticed too, even in the Kirby demo, this seems to just be a trick they're doing for Switch games now, is like enemies a little bit further off in this scene in the area, we're just moving just really, really slow, but I guess it saves on resources, but I feel like they gotta clean that up.
But as far as the new game, it looks interesting. It's definitely a bigger departure from the past couple of games, which is, I never have a problem with that. I know a couple of people have some opinions on the new trainer design, saying that they look too young, but I think the design is pretty clean. They look like grade schoolers that you battle.
They look like the first little trainer or schoolboy NPCs. We hope that I mean the starters look pretty cool, but yeah, hopefully there's some trainer customization. But it's unlikely that you'll be able to like say, oh, I'm actually someone older looking character. But who knows?
Kind of before we wrapped up, what do you actually think of the starters design? Do you have a favorite already?
I like all of them. Sprigatito, yes, I've seen the you got to flip your work. The one eye someone noticed is like a couple pixels rotated incorrectly, but no one is really going to notice that. They all seem fairly unique and cool concepts, and I'm looking forward to interested in how they're going to evolve. I like the duck and the little chili pepper dinosaur alligator thing also. Although supposedly he's going to have to evolve into a snake to fit the Zodiac crazy silliness for the fire types, but it doesn't have to actually do that, guys. You know?
As long as you don't get like a grass fight and a firefighting type as the last evolution.
Gosh. Yeah. There's still so many unused types that they could have for the starters. I hope they are still slightly have some creative juice.
I mean, they did okay with Arceus, because we got our first like ghost type final evolution as a starter, which was actually pretty good. Yeah.
First explosion, yeah. I want to say original Decidueye may have been ghosts, but no one's really. It's Sun and Moon. Those aren't the most remembered games, but yeah, it's really interesting. There's some speculation that my only maybe concern is if like the legendaries, are they really going to be like a giant orange and grape?
I mean, it's not like
are those really what the themes are?
Pokemon or sludge Pokemon. But no, I think they can be creative enough where they can add those elements into those legendaries. Yeah.
Yeah, just more kind of subtle aesthetics based on this, because it's one of the first things maybe you think of when you think of this region is definitely all the fruit and tropical climates and stuff. I'm definitely looking forward to there's a lot of lore and history of the region. The Moors, the occupation, maybe we'll get the Spanish Inquisition as the enemy team if it has one of those. But yeah, I think overall we're definitely curious where it's going to go and hopefully what it's going to take. But yeah, any final thoughts? I think we covered most of our thoughts. Well, thank you guys for joining us. If you have any thoughts of your own or disagree with anything that we're thinking about, or have any theories too, I'd love to hear them. Leave them down in the comments. And until next time, thank you very much for joining us.
Bye.
Yep. Bye.